Hello, I'm the music, arts, and culture writer Frank Matheis. In October 2018, I curated a photo exhibit with the expert help of Bibiana Huang Matheis. The show brought together internationally renowned music photographers in an exhibit of black and white fine art photography of musicians in the acoustic traditions. This photo documentary exhibit took place at the Howland Cultural Center in Beacon, New York. The convergence of these prominent professional photographers into a single exhibition was a unique and significant cultural occasion. The opening reception was on Saturday, October 6th, with special musical guest, singer-songwriter Lowry Hamner, who traveled all the way to New York from Mississippi. His wonderful songs are also the soundtrack to this video. The exhibit also featured a special tribute to the late Little Sammy Davis, a blues harmonica player and longtime Hudson Valley, New York resident. Let me guide you through the exhibit. One of Europe's most important blues experts is Axel Küstner from Germany. He traveled to the US in 1978 and again in 1980 to photo document country blues musicians and to collect field recordings of musicians in their natural surroundings. He was the producer of 14 LPs under the series Original Field Recordings Living Country Blues USA. He frequently publishes in Living Blues and other magazines and continues to be active as a blues expert in Germany. Bill Steber is a critically acclaimed musician, documentarian of blues life, and photographer. He resides in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Bill is a critically acclaimed photographer whose work has achieved international fame as a major contributor to Living Blues magazine, where his striking and intimate photos are frequently featured. Bill Steber has documented blues culture in Mississippi for the last 20 years. George Mitchell from Fort Myers, Florida, is the producer of the famed George Mitchell collection of field recordings and a photographer. In the summer of 1967, Mitchell traveled with his wife Kathy, a Wallensack tape recorder, and a borrowed 35mm camera from the University of Minnesota to document blues musicians in Mississippi. Joseph Rosen is a photographer based in New York City. He is a regular contributor to Living Blues magazine and other music publications. Joe received the prestigious Keeping the Blues Alive in Photography and Art Award in 2002. The award is presented by the Blues Foundation of Memphis, Tennessee, to an artist who has created a body of work which has brought the blues to the public through photography and made a significant contribution to the blues world. Douglas Baz is a freelance and fine art photographer residing in the Hudson Valley of New York. The multiple award winner has been active in photography since the 1970s, including as professor of photography. The images in this exhibition are from a documentary project he and Charles Traub photographed in Cajun, Louisiana in 1974. Bibiana Huang Matheis is an artist, fine arts photographer, and curator whose photos have been published and exhibited nationwide and in Europe. She's a member of the board of directors and curator at the Hammett Museum in New York. She's a regular photography contributor to Living Blues magazine and thecountryblues.com. Her photo is in the permanent collection of the National Museum of African American History and Culture, Smithsonian Institution, Washington, D.C. Jack Hirschorn is a Brooklyn-based fine art photographer. He has emerged as one of the primary chroniclers and documentarians of one of New York's most important roots music scene, the Jalopy Theater and School of Music. What once happened in Greenwich Village in the 1960s is now happening at the Jalopy, and Hirschorn is there to capture the vibe. One day, Hirschorn's photos will take the same prominence as those who documented the early folk revival. The Brooklyn-based photographer Liz Rabson Schnore displayed her series titled Objects of Desire, the Visual Language of Musical Instruments. These images recall another photograph, Man Ray's famous Le Violon de Ingrès, of a woman with F-holds superimposed on her back. Hudson Valley, New York photographer John Rocklin's involvement with music started at a young age when his father took him to Washington Square nearly every Sunday, exposing him to great music. He specializes in music photography and he is himself a musician. He said, "I stood right next to Bob Dylan, Woody Guthrie, Sonny Terry, and Brownie McGhee, and as they did what they did." In 1996, John met and befriended blues harmonica legend Little Sammy Davis. The meeting presented John with many photo opportunities which inspired him to pursue artistic photography. We also showed several images on loan from the Avalon Archives Museum of Rock and Roll by the kindness of curator Ned Moran. The Avalon Archives Museum of Rock and Roll is a tribute to musicians through art and education. The exhibit is permanently installed at the Falcon Underground in Marlboro, New York. The late Myron Samuels was a serious blues fan and photographer. He was a Baltimore native and longtime Maine resident, and he had a long passion for the blues and all music. For decades he was a volunteer DJ on WMPG community radio and a street musician singing his heart out and playing the blues harp at Portland area venues and farmers markets. Special thanks to his family for sharing his photos with the world. Last are my photos. I'm Frank Matheis, and I conceived and curated the American Roots exhibition. I'm primarily a writer and secondarily a photographer. I am the co-author of the book Sweet Bitter Blues with harmonica player and National Heritage Fellow Phil Wiggins. I'm a contributing writer to Living Blues magazine and formerly to Blues Access magazine. I'm also the publisher of a website dedicated to the acoustic blues titled thecountryblues.com. Special thanks to the great singer-songwriter Lowry Hamner. Check out his albums and website at lowryhamner.com. Special thanks to Felipe Galindo of Prime Media Westchester in New York for his excellent videography and video editing. It's been my distinct honor and privilege to partner with one of the top graphic designers, Leo Marino III, for 30 years. His amazing invitations greatly supported this project, and I thank him.